I'm Redbeard. And this is Red Dirt Television. How's it going, everybody? It's Redbeard here again. I'm getting ready to start production on a squirrel hunting series. I see a lot of squirrel hunting videos out there on YouTube, and they seem to be doing pretty well, so I figured I would start up my own series since a lot of you viewers out there seem to really like them. But I wanted to prelude it a little bit because I don't hunt like everybody else does. I kind of have my own way of doing it. I've been squirrel hunting for about 20 years now, 20 plus years. And I have evolved a lot as a hunter, so I wanted to share a lot of that with you. And I've seen several videos on what people say you need as far as gear for squirrel hunting, and I don't really agree with actually any of it, which is why I'm doing this video for y'all. I can boil it down to 4 things. You really only need 4 things to be an effective squirrel hunter. First and foremost, and what I feel is the absolute most important, especially if you live in the United States, is you need a hunting license. You need to be legal. If you don't live in the U.S., check with your local laws and regulations. Find out what you need to do to be legal out there. I don't know how it works in the rest of the world or even in most other states, but here in Oklahoma, if you get caught hunting illegally, and it doesn't even matter what you're hunting, they can take your gun, they can take your dog, they can take your car, they can take the camo right off your back. They can take anything you used to hunt, okay? And this is completely at the discretion of the ranger that that caught you. So you don't want to lose your daily driver because you were hunting someplace you weren't supposed to be without a license. So make sure you are legal to hunt first and foremost. Now once you got that out of the way, you need some method of taking game, which is our second thing. Second thing on the list is some means of effectively, and I'll throw in a caveat of humanely, killing squirrels, okay? And I can't really speak anywhere else in the world. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not that worldly, but here in the U.S., there are very, very few laws on what you can or can't take a squirrel with. I started out as a kid throwing rocks. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. It takes a really strong arm and a lot of luck, but it can be done. My best friend and I have proven several times over that it can be done. So, you can throw rocks if that's all you got. You can use a blowgun. It's not the most humane or effective means of killing squirrels, but it will work in a pinch. You can use a bow and arrow, and if you use a bow and arrow, I highly suggest you use game tips or bludgeon tips. Please, for the love of God, do not use field points or broadheads. It's a waste of a point, it's a waste of an arrow, and it's just, in most cases, it's not very humane. So I would strongly, strongly advise against using anything like that. Please stick with the game tips. You can use air rifles, and if you look across the videos on YouTube, I'd say a good conservative 60 to 70% of them are actually using air rifles. You don't need anything fancy or expensive. You don't need an Ed Gun Matador or anything to get out there and hunt. This is a little $50, $60 Daisy Powerline 880 that I picked up at Walmart for my 8-year-old son. And this will take squirrels, on paper, out to about 50 yards. I personally wouldn't push it any further than about 25 or 30, mainly because it's just not that accurate. And to me, accuracy is king. I like being humane and quick with my kills. So I demand headshots, especially when you're talking about something as weak as an air rifle. But like I said, you don't need anything fancy or expensive. You just need something that will be effective. And this will be more than effective for killing squirrels. Probably the most popular caliber, and we're moving up into the firearms now, is the .22 LR. Without a doubt, that is the most popular caliber for pretty much all pest and small game and varmints. Mainly because it's plentiful and cheap. Well, it used to be plentiful. It's not so much now. I don't know what's wrong with people and going in and buying, 20, 30,000 rounds of .22 LR and knowing they're just going to go home and stick it in their closet. But that's a whole nother video. basically, when it comes to 22 LRs, there's a whole bunch of them out there, but the two kings for squirrel hunting, at least here in the US, are on top of the list. The Ruger 1022. This is my 1022 carbine. I've got the 16-inch barrel. I've got the Butler Creek BX25 magazine. I've got a cheap little Tasco red dot scope on here, just because. I like running the high cap mags when I'm squirrel hunting with this thing, mainly because I've got a really bad habit of trying to shoot squirrels while they're on the run with the semi-automatic, just because you have those really quick follow-up shots, and there's not too many things in this life as satisfying as hitting a squirrel on the move. That's a lot of fun. That's part of the fun of hunting them. You've got the 1022 is definitely king, and right behind it, close on its heels, is the Marlin Model 60. This is my very first actual rifle. I bought this when I was 18 years old for $75. I have since retired it. I have shot this thing so many times that the barrel has gone smoothbore, and that definitely is the Achilles heel of the Model 60, is the micro groove rifling just doesn't last as long. But they are extremely accurate, they are quick firing, and they are every bit as reliable as a 1022. They are a little bit more difficult to break down, but you know, it's a trade-off. You can use shotguns. You don't necessarily need a 10 gauge or a 12 gauge. A 20 gauge is probably going to be about the top of the mark as far as what you need for lethality. Probably the most common or popular shotgun caliber for hunting squirrels is going to be the 410. I personally don't like using shotguns. Gut shot squirrels stink when you clean them. Rabbits aren't as bad, I promise. A gut shot rabbit isn't as bad as the inside of a gut shot squirrel. It will put you off your appetite. So I personally like to stay with the rifles. Now, just because you can doesn't mean you should. I mean, I can get away with using a 30-06 for hunting squirrels, but it's just overkill. And when it comes to center fire, I pretty much just, you know, like drugs, just say no. But if you're going to, I would try and restrict it to the 204 Ruger, 22 250, 223. You know, 5.56 is a little bit hot, and you can't get expandable rounds in 5.56 NATO, so just 223. And I would reserve those calibers for extreme long range. And when I say extreme long range, when we're talking squirrel hunting, we're talking 400 or 500 yards is extreme long range for squirrel hunting. You're talking about a target that's that big, and really what you're trying to hit's about that big. You're talking about a dime-sized target at 400 or 500 yards. How many people do you know can hit a dime with the first shot at 500 yards? Even with those high caliber rounds. Most of my hunting takes place between 80 and 150 yards. So my weapon of choice is my Savage 93R17 17 Hornady Magnum rimfire. I'm not going to chamber check this, although the chamber is empty and the firing pin is down. It is still loaded. This is my quick grab. I use this for just about everything, from coons and possums to squirrels, rabbits, coyotes. I use this thing a lot. This is one of my favorite rifles, and it is extremely accurate. This thing is competition accurate right out of the box. I did throw a cheap little $65 center point. It's a 3 to 9 power, which pretty much lives on about 5 or 6 power. It's a mil dot illuminated reticle. You really don't need all that. Just some cheap scope that will, you know, hold zero will be more than adequate for a rifle of this type. And I highly recommend, if you're going to squirrel hunt, stay in the rimfire family. Pretty much everything short of an acorn or a 22 short is going to be more than effective against squirrel. Now, 22 shorts, they'll work at close range, you know, at 20 to 30 feet. I wouldn't trust them much past that. They lose velocity way too fast, and they're already a slow moving round. Excuse me. I prefer the 17 HMR It's a very flat shooting round. It has a lot of punch for what it is. I have canoed many a squirrel head with this caliber at varying distances, anywhere between 50 and 105 yards, and I can't say enough good things about the 17 HMR. But that's just a few examples of what kind of weaponry you can use to take game. So you've got the first two things out of the way. You need a license, you need to be legal, and you need some method of taking game. All right, the third thing you're going to need is a good knife. And when I say a good knife, you don't need, for example, this is a handmade, completely custom skinning knife I got from a friend, and if this were to retail, it would retail extremely expensive. We're talking about probably in the neighborhood of about $100 to $125 for a blade like this. This is completely handmade, hand-tempered. I mean, start from scratch with an old steel saw blade. And I've got me a custom knife. You don't need anything like that. If your situation allows for it, by all means, go ahead. I actually have a cheap little buck knife that was a gift. And this has cleaned several squirrels. You know, just a cheap little folding knife. This is going to be more than enough. You don't need anything with a huge blade. That's part of the reason why my skinning knife has such a short blade. You will need something with a bit of a point. It does make things a little bit easier for you. And whenever we get deeper into the series, I'll show a couple different ways that I like to use to clean squirrels. We may even start a whole new series on it. Leave it in the comments. Tell me what you think. We'll do a whole separate series on 101 ways to clean a squirrel. But you need some way to clean it. You want to take the skin off of it, and you want to try and get it off there fairly quickly, because they are animals. They do run around in the woods, and they do get covered in parasites. Now when you kill them, all of a sudden the blood's no longer flowing. There's nothing there for the parasites. There's no reason for them to stay. So where do they go? All over you. So make sure you get some off. You know, cover yourself in bug spray. Get them cleaned as quickly as possible. I like to carry around a couple Ziploc baggies just so I can clean them up real quick and throw them in there. And I've usually got an ice chest with me. Or I'm hunting here on the property and I can just come up to the house real quick and pitch them in the freezer and go right back out. But you want to have some way to clean your game as soon as you kill it. The fourth thing you're going to need, the fourth and final thing you're going to need, and this is certainly last but not least, is you need the skill and aptitude to get out there and get the job done effectively, humanely, and most important, safely. You can have everything else taken care of. You can have all the camo, the world's best calls, the most expensive rifle. You've been through all the classes. You know, you've got all the bases covered. But you've never actually gone out there and hunted. You've never actually gone out and spent time with your rifle. You are the most dangerous person to be around in the woods. Okay, and I'm not trying to say that to be mean or anything. This is absolutely true. You need to know what you're doing. My crazy neighbor, I don't like to give him credit for much, but he did actually have one intelligent thing to say when I was younger. You can read every book ever written on how to insert a nail into a piece of wood, but until you've gone out there and smashed the shit out of your thumb a dozen times with a hammer, you really have no friggin' clue what you're doing. And it's the same way with hunting. You can read, you know, all you want. You can sit here on YouTube and go through absolutely every single squirrel hunting video there is available. Until you've got out there and done it, you know nothing. Okay, I want to help you guys out because a lot of this is monkey see, monkey do. But please remember to be safe. That is the most important thing. Know what your target is, where your target is. You need to know what is around your target and everything beyond it. Please, for the love of God, use your intelligence, your God-given common sense, and be safe when you're out there. That's all I've got for this one. We'll pick it up on the next video, which hopefully will be out there and in the field and hunting. So until then, we'll catch you on the flip side.